Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all around the world. It has been a long while, it's been 2 more months, really 2.5 months, since I recorded the last episode of the podcast. Welcome back. I genuinely feel thrilled to return to recording these episodes. It's been a while, I've been sorting some things out. I've been trying to think about a new schedule, a new sort of model to work on with this podcast, and hopefully I found one. And thankfully I found one. Actually, I'm going to be sticking with it for the rest of the season, hopefully. Without further ado, of course, let's not waste more time. Like, share, comment on the video as usual. It is the usual drill. Subscribe to the channel. Help us, of course, reach 2K hopefully before the end of the African Cup of Nations. We have more coming with that as well. Follow us on social media. The links will always be in the description as usual. And thanks for watching and helping us if you do. Of course, listen on Spotify, Google Podcast, or any podcast listening platform available. Thank you and welcome to episode 10 of season 2. Happy New Year, everyone, and we kick things off with the return of the podcast, of course, with the Premier League. Action was on Saturday and Sunday. Arsenal took on Manchester City at the Emirates to kick things off in Super Saturday. No hot takes. Man City are one of the best teams in the world, probably the best in the world. They entered this match with an unbelievable form. 10 wins on the spin. Arsenal turned things around from the start of the season, the first 3 weeks in particular, where they had sort of awful start, really, conceding 10 goals and scoring none, losing to Brentford, to City, to Chelsea back-to-back. It felt like Arsenal were on the brink of having a very, very bad season. Arteta took things around, really managed to make the team feel more solid, improve the side a lot. The youngsters are given a lot of adrenaline and, enthusiasm to that side. The likes of Saka, Smith Rowe, Gabriel Martinelli's finding his place once again among the team. Takahiro Tomoyasu is improving, is so underrated. That the Japanese right back is so underrated as far as Arsenal are concerned, and also in the conversation of the whole right back position in general, when you talk about the likes of Reece James and Alexander-Arnold and João Cancelo in Man City. Tomiyasu feels underrated, but he's just so good at doing his job. He does the job really, really well, and he obeys instructions and does the job really well on the pitch. So Arsenal, as I mentioned, turned the corner around from their early form. City coming in on an incredible form of 10 wins in a row. So the expectations were, City are going to win, City are going to dominate the game. Maybe, Arsenal get a few licks in, but it won't be close. However, what we had in the game was pretty different. Arsenal had a great first half, dominating City at certain points. At, certain points of the half, it felt like City did have no response whatsoever at what Arsenal are doing. And believe it or not, City were losing the ball in their own half at certain points. They couldn't even get the ball out from the back properly. It was wonderful stuff from Arsenal. They were really well organised. They knew how to press. They didn't lose their shape. They didn't leave too much spaces for City. It felt like the first half in particular was, the worst half for City of all season, at least all season, if not the whole Guardiola era. They were very intense, the Arsenal players, pressing really well. The midfield worked incredibly to close the gaps, to not allow the likes of Bernardo Silva and De Bruyne to pick passes and try to pick spaces to set up the front guys, Mahrez and Raheem Sterling and Gabriel Jesus. And up front, really, they were relying on quick transitions behind Rodri's back and really trying to take advantage, particularly of Nathan Ake, who was the left back, with no Zinchenko, of course, being there on the pitch because of COVID. So Arsenal took advantage of that, and they had a good spell of the game where they pressed and they made a lot of chances, of course, and they scored their goal in the 31st minute thanks to Bukayo Saka. But before that, of course, controversy reigned supreme, but we're going to leave that a bit to the end of the bit of the segment about City. Let's talk about the controversy there in the end. In the second half, Arsenal started better. As well, they started the first 15 minutes or so. They started as the same intensity, the same amount of perseverance, the same performances of the first half. But City just felt, and felt lacking. City really felt lacking of confidence, probably lacking of energy for a certain reason. They felt a bit tired. You didn't see that a lot of movement, trying to create spaces through. There was no lot of running from the likes of De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva inside the box. I mean, it didn't feel like this was a proper City side. But certainly, when you don't have solutions, life finds a way to help you. City get a penalty in the 57th minute thanks to Bernardo Silva and a stupid decision from Granit Xhaka. I mean, there's no debate about whether it's a penalty or not. And that is not actually where the controversy is, because that's what people think it is. Mostly, the fan base of Arsenal, some of it at least, think that it may not be a penalty. It was a penalty. Xhaka pulled the shirt. Silva, yes, tried to make it look beautiful by just probably diving, but there was contact on his foot and there was a pull of the shirt, so the referee didn't really have a lot of choice to just look at it at VAR, and that's another point of controversy we're going to get to. Also, after that, in the space of 5 minutes, really, Gabriel gets 2 yellow cards and gets sent off, and the game completely changed over here. And by this point, people expected City to just rout Arsenal. And despite the fact that they were 1-1, they'd drawn with a penalty, of course, scored by Mahrez. That didn't happen. They didn't rout Arsenal. Actually, Arsenal had some good opportunities as well when they were 10-man. But definitely, City overpowered them a bit and took the game under control properly this time for the next 25 minutes and the last 25 minutes of the game. But the goal, I think, that Rodri scored in the 93rd minute was a dagger of a goal. I mean, it was heartbreaking, really. The goal was a bit, unexpected. Emerick Laporte was in the box. The ball bounced off Ben White and falling kindly towards Rodri, who just put his foot and scored and put it past Aaron Ramsdale to make it 2-1 for City. A big victory away from home. A victory that, as we're going to mention later, of course, with the Chelsea-Liverpool game, has a lot of big consequences. Now, where's the controversy in this game, you ask? There was two big moments in this game where controversy reigned supreme and where people still debating to this day. The Odegaard situation in the first half, a penalty around 15 to 16 minutes. Odegaard fell down after a tackle from Ederson, and VAR didn't even look at it. And that's where the controversy is. The controversy wasn't in the penalty that City were given, it was in the Arsenal one that was supposedly not even reviewed by VAR. And while the penalty was for City was reviewed, why wasn't the Arsenal one checked as well, just from the standpoint of equality, from justice, just to be fair in the game? The penalty for Odegaard, or the potential penalty for Odegaard, should have been reviewed. I agree it's a penalty, to be fair. Ederson just got enough of the foot of Odegaard, not really. The ball didn't really touch the ball. I think Odegaard was trying to deflect the ball to earn the penalty, maybe, trying to be smart, but also, it kind of worked because Ederson didn't get the ball, so the referee was not consistent in that, didn't check VAR when he should have done. So it feels like a great disappointment, I think, for the Arsenal fans, more than the result itself, more than the loss, because I don't think that they will feel bad, because they will see the game and they will know that their side played well, they performed really well, they put City to their limit, they pressed one of the best teams in the world, they played, dare I say it, better than one of the best teams in the world, a team that completely stormed the Premier League through, and nobody could stop, and I mean nobody could stop in the Premier League. They really, went head-to-head, toe-to-toe with that side, and really had a good game. And the point of VAR not being consistent, the decision, I mean, not so much about the red card and the penalty as well, even the red card, people are debating it, but I think it's a red card. Gabriel got a yellow for protesting the penalty, and he got a second yellow for basically it's a wrestling clothesline on Jesus. But by the way, between parentheses, what a turn from Jesus to just send Gabriel flying and escape from him with that chest touch. Anyway, as far as the game is concerned, big victory for City. Disappointing, I would say heartbreaking for Arsenal, because it happened late and then very late. The goal was in the 93rd minute. But definitely they will take the positives in the future. Probably they now will take it and think like, we played a good game against Man City, a very good game against Man City. We should make this the benchmark, we should make this the bar for our performances to just try and return to the top 4, which is a pretty realistic chance at the moment. I mean, they're sitting at that position, 4th with 35 points. They could really still have a great season going on if they want to secure that spot and return to the Champions League football themselves. They have a good crop of young players. I mean, they look kind of like Milan. New players, new generation that wants to return to the Champions League, and hopefully for them, they'll do just enough in that quest as well. As far as City are concerned, we can't really say a lot about them. Yes, this wasn't the best of performances for them. Definitely a performance, I think, below the bar that City usually set for themselves. But they will take the win. It's 11 victories on the spin now. It's hard to argue that they're not going to be winning the title in the end of the season. Yes, people will try and spin it around and say, oh yes, still, maybe they'll lose here, maybe Liverpool win their games in hand, maybe something will happen from here until the end of the season or in the next couple of months. But realistically speaking, we all know that what happens till the end of the season is going to be formalities. If City are on such form, 11 victories in a row, they're never going to be stopped. They're going to be, probably getting close to 100 points. They're also they're doing all sorts of great stuff. They're really, solid defensively, the strongest defense in the league with 13 goals, the strongest attack in the league with 53 goals. Liverpool are behind them with 1 goal in that department, and they really have one of the best squads in the world, if not the best squad. A pretty deep squad that can rotate, that can give them so many options. And certainly a coaching Guardiola that is absolutely genius and understand how he plays the game. He absolutely hacked the Premier League over the past couple of years when people thought he would fail at the beginning of his reign at the helm of Manchester City. Anyway, moving on, of course, Leicester City-Norwich City was postponed. It will be played at a later date. And then we have Watford versus Spurs. It was Tottenham travelling away on the back of a really, really good form for Spurs as of late. 2 draws and 3 victories in their last 5 against the Watford side under Ranieri, who they never been hitting on all cylinders. Never been hitting on any cylinders. 5 losses out of the last 5 games, and definitely look at the moment Watford like a surefire relegation fighters. I mean, 17th with 13 points, they're not that far at the moment. The game against, of course, Tottenham, I think as you expect a Tottenham game to be, under Conte now, intense, very high energy, of course. It looks like the diet is given the positive effect wanted, of course, when people made fun of it, for taking off sort of ketchup and that sort of stuff from their diet, but it's doing wonders. It's really working well. I mean, it's a shame for Watford, the only shame for them that the game was ended in the 96th minute with a Davinson Sanchez goal from a Heung-min Son free kick when they could have gotten the point at least to change their fortunes a little bit. That would be the heartbreaking thing, but the game overall, it was one-sided, not even close, I would say. Watford didn't even have a spell where we could say, yes, they could score, they could deserve a draw at the very least. It was one-sided. Tottenham deserved the victory, and they get theirs, of course. Now they are 5th with 34 points. They're right behind Arsenal. It's the North London battle, it looks like, for the top 4 spots as well, behind West Ham, in fact, and 5th, and only 2 points behind Arsenal. And 4th, it will be an interesting battle between these 3, and you add to them, of course, Man United, who play Newcastle United on Monday. Then, of course, Crystal Palace, a side that was doing decently under Patrick Vieira so far. Not exactly setting the world on fire, maybe not the top 4 material or top 6 material, but they're doing decent. They're having good result against the West Ham side that fell off the cliff a little bit, as of late. They're not exactly on their best form. People started questioning their top 4 credentials, but it was a good victory for them. It was a tough one, to be fair. They went ahead 3-0 at half-time, like not even, late in the second half. They went 3-0 at half-time, up. Michael Antonio opened the scoring. Beautiful celebration, by the way. I'm not going to judge it. I mean, his celebrations are always ridiculous. The cardboard one last season, and now this one. Manuel Lanzini scored a beautiful goal. I mean, it was The technique on that goal was just wonderful from Lanzini. He just took it past the defender, controlled it almost immediately, put it left foot on the volley into the far corner of Crystal Palace's goalkeeper to send West Ham 2-0 up in that game. And then he got a penalty, he scored it later on, he had a brace, and it was 3-0 at half time, and West Ham normally felt relaxed, and that's what happened. Crystal Palace got the better of them in the second half, but it wasn't enough to get them a draw. It was two late goals from Hudson Edouard and a beautiful free kick from Michael Olise. It was 3-2 overall. A good victory for West Ham, a good victory away from home against a side that is very, very tough to beat. And definitely a victory that would rejuvenate and reignite their quest to get the top 4 spot and get the 4th spot, even get maybe the 3rd spot, depending on the other results in the Premier League. On Sunday it was Brentford versus Aston Villa. Aston Villa, who were, having a decent form under Steven Gerrard, the new manager. So far they fell also off their form a little bit. A loss against Chelsea and now a loss against Brentford, 2-1. It was Danny Ings actually opening the score for Aston Villa before Ioane Wissa scored the equaliser in the 42nd minute. And the second goal for Brentford came late on with Mats Rorslev Rasmussen scoring in the 83rd minute to give Brentford a vital win. And as much people were thinking Brentford may be a relegation fighters, they're actually pretty high than that. They're pretty, let's say, safe from that position at the moment. The closest to the relegation zone is 12 points for them, so I don't really think that they will slip that far down the table. So probably we could say that Brentford will stay in the Premier League for another season. For Aston Villa, who are right behind them with 22 points at 13th, the best thing they could hope for is just, stay in the Premier League, which I think they would, and start a new campaign next season with Steven Gerrard, where they can really just improve themselves, recruit a couple of players, and build a squad that could, potentially compete for better places in the Premier League, top 6 maybe, in the upper echelon of the table anyway. Then Everton under Rafa Benitez. Everton, who didn't play for 3 weeks or so because of COVID outbreak in the squad, of course, forcing them to cancel a lot of their games. 3 games, to be fair, were cancelled for Everton over the festive period. They returned to action and they faced Brighton, who, under Graham Potter, they have been doing really, really well. They might have been flying under the radar, Brighton this season, or despite the good result they were having. They're 8th on the table with 27 points. They've been really getting some good points towards the end of last year. A point against Chelsea as well was really, really important result for them. And they get another important victory away from home against a tough side in Everton at the Goodison Park, 3-2. They led thanks to Alexis McAllister. Dan Burn added the second goal before, Dominic Calvert-Lewin missed an opportunity to make it 2-1 in the first half when he missed a penalty and hit the woodwork. Then in the second half, Anthony Gordon made it 2-1 and made it 1-2 actually, and brought the game back to somewhat of a justifiable level. Then Alexis McAllister added the third goal, and Anthony Gordon scored the second goal for Everton to make it 3-2, make it sound like a very, very commandable result. I mean, it was a tight game, to be fair. It was a tight game between the two sides, and Brighton were just the better side. They outdone Everton, and they took more advantage of their defensive mistakes than Everton took advantage of Brighton's mistake. Then we had Leeds United taking on Burnley. Of course, Leeds United, who haven't been having the best season of all, to be fair. It was not a stellar season for them under Marcelo Bielsa. A lot of criticism for their open style that leaves so much gaps in defence. Their form hasn't been good leading to this one. It was 3 losses back to back for Leeds United, and they needed a win to at least improve their status on the table. Of course, they're 16th at the moment, pretty close to the danger zone when it comes to relegation. Really, they're not safe at all this season, and this was a good win against a fellow, let's say, relegation fighter in Burnley. 3-1, an important result for them. They needed sort of that uplifting, boosting victory, and they got it. Jack Harrison opened the scoring in the 39th minute for Leeds, then Maxwell Cornet equalised from a beautiful free kick in the 54th minute, and then Stuart Dallas, beautiful finish from him in the second goal to make it 2-1, and late on in the game it was Daniel James from a Joe Gelhardt cross who made it 3-1, and poor Wayne Hennessy, the goalkeeper for Burnley, he was unlucky on that one. He almost saved the ball, but the ball just bounced so high and right into the net for the third goal for Leeds United. As you mentioned, an important goal, important victory overall, that probably will see them maybe improve their results a little bit. They have the opportunity maybe to do that in the next couple of fixtures as far as Leeds are concerned, because they need victories anyway. The next fixture in the Premier League is West Ham. Not an easy one per se, but let's face it, they need the victories, they need points, and they need them really, really quickly. They face West Ham actually twice. They face them in the Cup on Sunday, in the FA Cup on Sunday, and they face them the next Sunday after that in the Premier League. Moving on to the main event of the evening, let's say, between Chelsea and Liverpool. I mean, you watch the Premier League for matches like those. Chelsea and Liverpool was a wonderful game. The first half in particular was just ping-pong football, I would say, from two sides. No side felt like really controlling the game. It felt like Chelsea started really well. They had a glorious opportunity for Christian Pulisic, who tried to skip Calvin Callagher and tried to be too cheeky basically with the ball and missed the chance. Mane on the other side had that same opportunity, didn't miss it. He skipped past Mendy and scored the first goal for Liverpool at the 9th minute mark of the game. It was a frantic start. Chelsea had a couple of opportunities, then Liverpool scored. Then you have Chelsea having another, couple of opportunities, of course, and then Liverpool capitalising with their mistakes, the spaces behind. I mean, the first goal, by the way, is a ridiculous mistake from Divock Chalobah, like a ball that he could have easily cleared with his foot. Why he was dipping down, why he was stooping low to get it with his head, nobody will know that. Sadio Mane capitalises and scores. Then you have the second goal for Liverpool, completely raiding the side of Marcos Alonso on the left, of course, with no Chilwell injured for the rest of the season, and with no wing backs properly, their proper wing backs being out injured. Chelsea had to patch things up with Alonso and Azpilicueta, and they didn't have a good game, to be fair, defensively, particularly Alonso down Mo Salah's side, who broke like so many times during the game from that side and could have scored probably a hat-trick for his own if it wasn't for Edouard Mendy, who in particular was the hero in the second half. Really, Sadio Mane as well had a great game, and probably should have been sent off by 15 seconds in the game, because the first thing he does is just go up in the air and just elbow Cesar Azpilicueta right in the face. I mean, what is the argument that people shouldn't get red cards in 15 seconds? It happened in the Premier League, it happened last season. There was a player in Southampton, I really can't remember the name, but he was sent off to 9 seconds, so why you cannot send off Sadio Mane after 15? He shouldn't have been continuing the game, should have scored probably his goal, but the referee Anthony Taylor decided to, let things play out a little bit and try and take control of the game, but that is not proper thinking, proper referee thinking kind of way when it is VAR. It's the age of VAR, basically. You need to let VAR, help you and decide. It was a red card, an obvious elbow, very blatant from Sadio Mane. Yet the referee decided, you know what, it's not worth it. I'm gonna let the game go on, and obviously Azpilicueta was very cross about it. The first half, by the way, was absolutely wonderful, as you mentioned. 2-0 Liverpool up. You felt maybe that would deflate Chelsea. It didn't. Chelsea were more intense, to be fair. It felt like Liverpool didn't control the midfield as they should control it with Fabinho there. Conte and Kovacic did a wonderful job. They were some of the best players for Chelsea. They ran the midfield. They bossed it completely, I dare to say it. It doesn't happen a lot in games where Liverpool play and where Fabinho plays in particular, but that happened yesterday with Chelsea and with Conte and Kovacic, who did a good job, bossing the midfield, running around, covering, setting the play up for forward players who didn't have their finishing boots on. So who comes to the rescue then? Kovacic comes to the rescue then in the 42nd minute. It's a beautiful goal that requires just a lot of physical presence, a lot of muscle, a lot of energy, a lot of adrenaline. a lot of intelligence and IQ really to to try and do a lot of stretching probably, because in other leagues, other players, they would have hurt themselves shooting the ball like that in such position, in such angle, coming from high. And why the referee was checking offside, nobody knows. Like, it's really a stupid way of thinking from the referee, checking offside when the ball was too high in the air, in an impossible angle for the goalkeeper to save. And really, the players were not obscuring the view of Cameron Kelleher. I mean, why he was thinking that way? Like there was a sea of players obscuring Cameron Kelleher from Liverpool themselves, other than the Chelsea players. I mean, it was just stupid, but the goal itself was just wonderful, marvellous. One of the goals of the season, obviously, and took Chelsea back to 2-1 down. And then, of course, Christian Pulisic in the late moments of that first half scores the equaliser, a mistake again, similar to the one against Leicester, really. Alexander-Arnold not covering well his side, Christian Pulisic running from behind and scoring the second goal to make it 2-2 in a breathtaking half. The second half was as good, but not, not as goalful, I say. Without goals, of course, it stayed 2-2, but Mendy was the hero of the hour. I think Mendy and Cameron Kelleher, really, were the hero of the hours as far as Chelsea and Liverpool are concerned. Mendy saved at least 3 or 4 opportunities for Liverpool, including a wonderful clearance from a Mo Salah long shot. He just sprinted and reacted quickly to that, and he saved Chelsea from an imminent goal. A couple of shots from Sadio Mane as well. He was brilliant, really, in those first 20 minutes of the second half. Then Chelsea took the game to Liverpool again and almost scored. Cameron Kelleher pulled a save as well from a Christian Pulisic shot. So it's definitely, it was definitely a great game. Lovely to watch. But the result, of course, will not help anyone, will not help Chelsea, will not help Liverpool's cause. Maybe Liverpool less because they have games in hand. They could have at least reduced the gap anyway. But Chelsea, we can officially say that they're out of the title race at the moment. The difference between them and City now stands with 11 points on the table. So it's really, really hard to see them 10 points actually behind Man City. So it's really, really hard to see them, catching up to them. I mean, stranger things happened in all the leagues, but definitely when you look at the form of Chelsea, you look at the form of City, even if Chelsea will pull a string of victories next, it looks like City are not going to be slowing down anytime soon. It's a matter of time maybe before City win the league, or officially you can talk about them as champions. I mean, we're trying to make it look like there is a title race at the moment, but as it stands, it's really in halt. As far as Liverpool, it's a draw that doesn't help their cause as well after a loss against Leicester. So, genuinely, it will be interesting to see how those teams react in the future. Chelsea have City next in the league. Between that, of course, they have 2 fixtures in the EFL Cup against Spurs. So, yeah, it's genuinely interesting to see how they will react, both sides, to the results that they're having, to the City results. I mean, hopefully they've probably been crossing their fingers that City get some bad results going in the next couple of weeks as well, which is really unlikely. Let's face it. Still one game to be played in that fixture. Of course, there's only Man United versus Newcastle to be played tomorrow. Or Man United. Man United play against Wolverhampton, on Monday to finish off things in the Premier League. It'd be always interesting to see also how Man United react as well. The latest set of performances was not really that good. Against Newcastle, it was a disappointing draw. I mean, a victory against Burnley that was, at least was uplifting and ended the year on a high for Manchester United. The Premier League standings at the moment: Man City 53 points, of course, Chelsea 43, Liverpool 42, Arsenal 35 at 4th, West Ham 34, Tottenham 33, Man United 31, Brighton 27, Wolverhampton 9th with 25, as well as Leicester with 25 points, 23 for Crystal Palace and Brentford, Aston Villa 22, 21 for Southampton, Everton with 19 for Leeds, Watford 13, 11 for Burnley, and Newcastle as well with 11 points, and Norwich bottom of the table with 10 points. Moving on to Spain, and Spain had action on Friday, as Valencia, of course, lost to Espanyol 2-1 at home at the Mestalla. They didn't have action on Saturday. They had matches on Sunday. Yesterday, of course, we're starting from Coliseum Alfonso Pérez, where Getafe hosted Real Madrid and shockingly defeated them 1-0. It was the 10th minute goal thanks to Enes Unal, capitalizing from a horrific mistake, I would say, from Eder Militao. What was he thinking in that goal, really? A surprising result, considering the form the Real Madrid has been in at the moment towards the end of the year. I mean, bar the draw against Cadiz, they really were plain sailing, looking to clinch a 35th La Liga title, but definitely this result may just put a dent in the armour and give opportunities for the chasing pack, mainly Sevilla by this point, to try and catch up to them. It was not a good performance from Real Madrid, let's face it. I mean, even the game against Cadiz where they drawn 0-0, you could say, oh yeah, Cadiz were the better side because they had a great goalkeeper, they defended really well. But in this one, it was different, I would say. It was Real Madrid lacking the finishing touch, even. Whereas against Cadiz, the goalkeeper was brilliant. This time against Getafe, it was just Real Madrid not being good enough in the midfield and in the final third. I mean, I said it a lot. If Real Madrid pressed on the ball, they genuinely make mistakes, and they made mistakes, and the goal itself was a mistake from pressing. I mean, Eder Militao, what was he thinking? I mean, he was on the edge of the 18-yard box, the goalkeeper Courtois was on his line. What was he thinking, trying to turn his back and cover the ball? Enes Unal would welcome that with open arms, stole the ball from him and scored the goal to score for Getafe, making it 1-0 by 10 minutes, and then it was Real Madrid chasing the game for the rest of the game. I mean, in particular, the right side of Real Madrid is a pretty big weakness, and still, I mean, obviously they had a couple of injuries, a couple of COVID cases, of course. Vinicius mainly, the biggest, I would say, of them all. I don't really think that the likes of Carvajal or Bale are going to be missed at the moment because they're not starting 11, but Vinicius Jr. is a big miss for this one. Rodrigo, you can see that he is not the same profile as Vinicius, not the same form at least as Vinicius, because I believe he's a really talented Brazilian kid, but definitely not the same form with Vinicius. And when you are not in the same form as Vinicius, who's scoring for fun and really being one of the best players of the season, maybe in the world at the moment, it's hard to cope. And of course, when Real Madrid and when Getafe actually finds a target that you give them in that right-hand side of the defense of Real Madrid, with Asensio really not doing a lot of defending. I mean, if you want an evidence of that, you can see the substitutions that happened in the second half, because Eden Hazard was replacing Marco Asensio, and then we moved Rodrigo to the right-hand side to defend more with Vasquez, and Eden Hazard to the left-hand side, and to capitalize on the offensive side of that department. They put in Marcelo in for Ferland Mendy. I mean, I thought he was injured, but he wasn't. It was a tactical change. It was a weird substitution, I would say, from Ancelotti. I didn't understand it, but obviously through the course of the game, we saw the contribution of Marcelo, who was running forward, he was helping, setting chances. Real Madrid felt a little bit more dangerous in the second half. The midfield in particular, I think, was a big disappointment. Kroos and Casemiro, I would say. Modric was wonderful as usual. Somebody told me that he's not 36 years of age. I mean, he still performs like he's in his 20s anyway. But he's absolutely brilliant, Luka Modric. He really ran up the midfield as usual. He was tackled out of his boots a lot in the game. He was bullied by that midfield of Getafe, but he still showed his class anyway. But I think the one thing about him that they didn't let him, play some decisive passes, find Benzema in spaces, find Rodrigo in spaces, find Hazard in spaces. So it felt like Real Madrid were basically shackled in the middle. Getafe, credit to them, they got the shape really well. The 5-3-2 was working wonderfully. Quique Flores, was really successful, I think, in putting an end to Real Madrid's weapons on the right and left, and also in the midfield, not allowing them to transition quickly, not allowing them to control the ball, to be calm and to be relaxed on the ball. They would always press. Arambare was brilliant. I shout out to him for really putting a great game in the midfield, as well as Nemanja Maksimovic. In the back, Matias Oliveira, the wing back, shout out to him as well. He had a great game, particularly in the first half, running down Lucas Vázquez and getting the better of him, and Asensio as well. So overall, an important victory for Getafe, the fourth of the season for the Madrid side that sees them go up to 16th with 18 points, of course evading the danger zone for the moment as far as Real Madrid are concerned. This keeps the 8-point gap between them and Sevilla going, and Sevilla actually have a couple of games in hand, so we could say that that Sevilla might still have a chance to compete for the title, might still have a chance to keep the title race going in Spain. They play, of course, Cadiz today on Monday, and also they play Real Madrid on Sunday before the Super Cup. They will see Real Madrid face Atletico Madrid and Real Sociedad and Barcelona. Elche drawn against Granada 0-0, a 10-man Elche. Actually, this game saw 2 red cards. One was on the bench for Francisco Rodriguez, and the other one was on the pitch for Diego Gonzalez, a last man foul in the 47th minute, but that didn't allow Granada to win the game. Of course, ended 0-0 between the two sides. Atletico Madrid finally victorious in a game after a bad run of form in the league, four losses in a row for Simeone's side. It was the worst form I ever seen them in the last couple of years. They defeated Rayo Vallecano 2-0. They needed this victory so much to start the new year with a new motivation. The first goal was scored by Angel Correa. The assist was from Carrasco, pretty much. That touch from Carrasco, I implore you to watch it. He's just wonderful. Carrasco is a baller, and an underrated one, I would say. He has some serious silky touches on the pitch. The second goal was early in the second half from Angel Correa, an assist from Minan Lodi. This was a good game for Atletico Madrid. They needed to perform well, they needed to win. The couple of hiccups, and not exactly a couple, 4 losses on the spin really is not a good omen to end the year, particularly the losses against likes of Mallorca. But definitely this result would help them regain their form, and maybe try and keep that top 4 spots, because the way at the moment as it stands, believe it or not, it is Atletico Madrid at 4th with 32 points and Barcelona with 31 points at 5th. Of course, Rayo Vallecano, the opponents of Atletico Madrid, could have overlapped both if they were victorious against Atletico, but they stay at 6th with 30 points. Shout out to Rayo Vallecano, by the way. They're having a really good season. They're having a really go at it. Rayo Vallecano under their boss, Andoni Iraola. Deportivo Alaves held on Real Sociedad to a 1-1 draw. Real Sociedad led early on in the game thanks to Adnan Januzaj at the 14th minute, but a penalty was awarded to Deportivo Alaves, and Joselu in the 58th minute makes it 1-1 in the game. Stayed shut afterwards, no goals since then, and it was, of course, Deportivo Alaves holding Sociedad to a draw that could have seen Sociedad be closer to the top 4 at the table, and maybe even leap into the top 4 depending on the results, but they didn't. Of course, another side that is suffering this week was Real Betis, as they lost at home against Celta Vigo 2-0. It was Iago Aspas opening the scoring from the penalty spot in the 36th minute before adding the second goal as well, scoring a brace for himself in this game against Real Betis. Of course, a bad result for Real Betis for Manuel Pellegrini at the moment. Celta Vigo are really doing well, to be fair. At the moment, Iago Aspas in particular is really underrated. I mean, he's having a decent season. 10 goals in 17 games is a really good number for someone at his age. Of course, he's very important for that Celta Vigo squad. He's an unbelievable squad player. Barcelona, to finish off, Barcelona travelled to face Mallorca with... a depleted squad is not going to give justice. It's not. We can't even say that it was a depleted squad. It was no squad. It was a second squad. It was a third-tier squad. There was just loads of players missing for numerous reasons. For injuries, COVID, suspensions in the cases of Sergio Busquets and Gavi. There was just a whole host of problems for Barcelona to deal with. They had to pull players from the B team and the C team, and they had to use players that they never used, like Stanis Pedrola, Mika Marmol was on the bench, Guilherme Jaime, Arnau Comas was on the bench as well. So Barcelona to go with that squad to Mallorca and defeat Mallorca. Mallorca were having a decent season as well, by the way. They're not exactly... they're not exactly having the worst of the seasons. They're 20 points at 15th. They perform well at the very least. They're almost in a safe zone. To go there with that squad and to defeat Mallorca 1-0, To be fair, they should thank Ter Stegen for that, who saved them from a last-minute equaliser, but still, to go there, to get a victory, Luke de Jong scoring from an Oscar Mingueza assist. I mean, 2022 couldn't have any weirder of a start if it wanted to. Still, Barcelona get the win. A good moral win, I would say, for Xavi. They needed the win because I'm sure the morale is pretty low with the amount of injuries and COVID in situation going with Barcelona. There's a problem registering Ferran Torres as well. We're going to get to that probably to a later episode. We'll talk about the problems with Barcelona at the moment. But definitely an important victory. A victory that Barcelona would use probably as a launchpad for the rest of the season. Launching a late surge for a top 4 spot. I mean, they have the opportunity to do so. They're 1 point behind Atletico. It's really close. It's possible. It's very, very doable at the moment as far as Barcelona are concerned. Definitely a victory at the right time to start the season on a good note for Xavi Hernandez. The fixture still goes on. Round 19 of La Liga. Villarreal faces Levante, Osasuna faces Athletic Club, and Cadiz, Sevilla. Those 3 games are played on Monday. As it stands in La Liga, Real Madrid with 46 points, Sevilla 38, Betis 33, 32 for Atletico Madrid, 31 for Barcelona, 30 for Vallecano and Sociedad, 28 for Valencia, Espanyol 26, Villarreal 25 points, Celta Vigo, Athletic Club with 24, Celta Vigo with 23, as well as Granada, 22 with Osasuna, 20 for Mallorca, 18 Getafe, 16 for Elche, Alaves, Cadiz and Levante are the 3 at the bottom with 16, 14 points and 8 points respectively. That's it for our episode. Thanks you for watching and listening. Of course, follow us on social media. The links are in the description on Instagram and Twitter. Subscribe to the channel, like, share, comment on the video. And of course, listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. We'll be back on Thursday. Of course, we're changing the schedule. We're not doing daily. And we will see you soon. Goodbye.
Behind closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.